Transcript. Many years ago, before weddings became projects that could exhaust the savings of responsible adults, friendship used to mean something simple in the life of Charlene. Charlene lived in Nairobi. She worked in an old office near Upper Hill where the elevators were for decoration and the air conditioner behaved like a civil servant who had already decided to retire emotionally. Her salary was decent. It could feed her, pay her rent, buy occasional shoes, and still allow for small happiness on weekends. Her life was balanced. Well, that was before the unexpected message arrived. Charlene was sitting quietly in the staff kitchen on a Tuesday afternoon, eating rice and chicken from a plastic container, when her phone vibrated on the table. She glanced at the screen and saw the notification. "You have been added to a group." She clicked on it. The group name was the Bridal Queens. Charlene frowned slightly because group chats have destroyed many peaceful lives in Africa before. She opened it, and the first message appeared immediately. "Ladies, welcome to the bridal squad." Another message followed. "Thank you all for accepting to stand with our beautiful bride." Charlotte scrolled upward carefully. Then she saw the name Nalia. Her face lit up instantly. Nalia was her university friend, a beautiful, cheerful lady. During their campus years, Nalia had been famous for two things: excellent grades and dramatic love stories. Charlene typed immediately, "Nalia, you're getting married." Within seconds, Nalia replied, "Yes, my dear," with a flood of emojis, rings, hearts, champagne bottles, and flowers. Charlene smiled. Marriage is good news, especially when it is happening to your friend. She began reading the list of bridesmaids. There were quite many, 10 women in total. Sharon counted again because the number made her uncomfortable. 1, 2, 3, 4. By the time she reached 10, she understood that this wedding would not be small. The names appeared one after another. Charlene, Aniri, Zawadi, Faith, Akini, Wamboi, Hail Lima, Cheyenne, Messi, and Linda. 10 women with different opinions and realities. This combination was capable of producing serious confusion. The group suddenly came alive. A message appeared from a woman named Zawadi. "Ladies, I am so excited for this journey." Another message from Aneri followed immediately. "We must make this wedding unforgettable." Charlene read the messages slowly while chewing her rice. Another message arrived. Someone wrote, "Bride tried energy." Several people sent dancing emojis. After that, Charlene laughed. Then the bride herself finally spoke. "My queens, thank you all for agreeing to work with me on this special day." Charlene typed immediately, "We are happy for you." That was the truth. She was really very happy. Then Zawadi wrote something that sounded harmless. "Ladies, we need to start planning early." Charlene nodded to herself. Planning is responsible, and responsible things rarely cause problems. Another message followed. "First things first, bridesmaid dresses." Okay, this sounded reasonable. Weddings require dresses. Charlene continued eating her rice. Zawadi typed again, "I found a designer in Westlands. She does luxury bridal pieces." Charlene almost choked on her rice. "Luxury? That is a dangerous word." Another message appeared. Jerry joined the discussion. "Yes, I know her work. It is very classy." Charlene coughed and swallowed slowly. Classy often costs a lot of money. Fate, who had not spoken before, suddenly appeared and said, "I support." Fate was one of those quiet people who had no idea to contribute, but they would fully support any expensive suggestions. Zawadi continued with confidence, "Each dress will be about 30,000 Kenyan shillings." Charlene almost swallowed her rice the wrong way. She coughed hard. At CI, 30,000 for a dress. Her colleague across the kitchen looked up. "Are you okay?" "Yes, yes," she said weakly. She looked again at the phone. The group chat was moving fast. Injury had already been approved. Perfect. Fate sent clapping emojis. Someone added, "We deserve to look good." Shining slowly opened her banking app. Unfortunately, her balance looked back at her like a prodigal daughter. It did not look like something that wanted to wear a 30,000 shilling dress. She closed the app quickly. Meanwhile, the conversation had moved forward. Zawadi wrote again, "We also need professional makeup for the wedding day." Someone replied immediately, "Yes, please. No one should embarrass the bride." Charlene blinked slowly. Embarrassed the bride? She touched her own face thoughtfully. Was her normal face now an embarrassment? Another message arrived. Ladies, we should also do a bridal bonding weekend. Shining frowned. Hiya, which one is bridal bonding weekend again? Zawadi explained proudly. A short trip before the wedding, so we connect spiritually as bridesmaids. Charlene stared at the message. Spiritually. She had never known spirituality required hotel booking. Then the next message came like thunder. I am thinking Nasha. Nasha, the resort area with swimming pools and lake views. Shining placed her phone down carefully on the table. The rice suddenly lost its taste in her mouth. That evening when she reached home, the group chat had produced 97 new messages. 97. Charlene sat quietly on her couch reading them one by one. By the time she finished reading, she understood something clearly. This wedding would be beautiful, but this beauty was going to be really expensive. She leaned forward and opened the messages again carefully this time, like a woman studying a contract that might affect her future. The first new message came from Zawadi, who had clearly accepted the position of unofficial wedding general. Ladies, I have spoken with the designer already, Charlene said. The designer again. Another message followed. She says we should come for measurements next Saturday. Injury replied immediately. Perfect. Fate wrote, I am free that day. Someone added 3 heart emojis. Charlene looked at the calendar on her phone. Next Saturday was salary week. Her heart felt small relief. Salary week was when courage returns to the human spirit. Then Zawadi typed again. There will be a small deposit required. Charlene frowned slightly. Deposits. She kept reading still. Only 10,000 shillings each for now. Charlene closed her eyes briefly. 10,000 only. The word only in money usually hides something dangerous. She opened her banking app again. The balance was still there, looking innocent, unaware of the battle approaching. Before she could think further, another message entered the group. Ladies, we also need matching robes for the morning of the wedding. Charlene blinked. I robe too, Zawadi explained helpfully. For the bridal preparation pictures. Another bridesmaid named Linda typed excitedly. Yes, the pictures will look amazing. Charlene whispered to herself. The pictures will look expensive. The group chat continued moving like a boss that had lost its brakes. Zawadi wrote again. Does anyone know a top-rated professional makeup artist? Not upcoming, please. Injury replied quickly. I know one in Kilimani. She charges 20,000 for a group package. Shaylin sat upright. Group package. Okay, that sounded safer. 2,000 shillings each. Then the next message arrived. 20,000 per person. Charlene slumped onto the couch. Everywhere blow. Meanwhile, the chat continued happily. Her lemur sent dancing emojis. Messi wrote, We must support our girl fully. Charlene rubbed her forehead gently. Support is beautiful when it is emotional. Support becomes complicated when it is financial. Just as she was preparing to close the chat, a new message appeared, this time from Anari. What about a bridal shower? Zawadi responded instantly. Yes, absolutely. Fate added, we cannot skip that. Shannon stared at the screen. The wedding itself had not happened yet, but the pre-wedding events were already multiplying like relatives during December holidays. Zawadi typed again. I know a nice rooftop venue in Westland. Charlene read the next line slowly. Only 50,000 shillings booking fee. She sat upright again. 50,000 for one evening. The chat exploded with excitement. Perfect venue. Great idea. Let's do it. Charlene looked at the phone suspiciously. It is either some of those women lived in a different financial universe. Because what? She typed slowly. Ladies, quick question. The messages paused. Zawadi replied, Yes, Charlene. Charlene hesitated. Then she asked, Who is paying for all these things? There was a moment of silence inside the group. Then Zawadi replied cheerfully, We are. Shalin stared at the message. We yes. Zawadi typed, It's the bridal squad's contribution. Zawadi swallowed slowly. Contribution. Another dangerous word in African social life. Zawadi continued, I will prepare a spreadsheet so that everything is organized. Spreadsheet. Hey, Charlene suddenly felt like she had joined a financial committee. Another message appeared. Ladies, please check your emails. Charlene opened her email. There it was. The subject line read, Vital Support Plan. She opened the document and held her chest for support. The list was long, very long. Bride's dress deposit, makeup contribution, brother's shower contribution, morning preparation, robes, and transportation for the wedding day. Charlene stared numbly at the numbers. Her brain began calculating survival. Meanwhile, the chat continued happily. Jerry wrote, This wedding will trend. Fate replied, Yes, oh, it must be classy. Charlene placed a phone on the table and stared at the ceiling. The room was silent, very silent. She whispered slowly, This wedding is not even mine. Her phone vibrated again. Another message from Zawadi came in. Ladies, please send your first contribution before Friday, so we can secure the designer. Charlene picked up the phone again, read the message twice, and then she laughed. The wedding was still months away. Yet, the pressure had already started. That night, she did what many reasonable people do when faced with a financial storm. She kept quiet. Charlene believed silence could sometimes solve problems. But group chats do not respect silence. The next morning when she woke up, her phone was already vibrating like a mosquito trapped inside a bottle. 23 new messages appeared. Charlene opened the chat cautiously. Zawadi had sent a cheerful reminder. Ladies, please remember the dress deposit by Friday. Then Jerry had added something new. I spoke to a nail technician who does bridal sets. Charlene sat up in bed slowly. Nails. The list had reached nails. Another message followed. Each person will pay 10,000 shillings. Charlene stared at the screen carefully. 10,000 for nails. She looked at her own fingers. They were ordinary fingers. They had never demanded 10,000 before. The messages continued. Halima wrote, Ladies, we must look coordinated. Fate added, Yes, no shortcuts. Charlene whispered to herself, My entire childhood had short cords. Unfortunately, the chat was moving too fast. Zawadi returned with another announcement. Also, the bride's bonding weekend is confirmed. Charlene blinked and confirmed. She scrolled upward. Zawadi had written, I found a beautiful resort in Nasha. The next message explained further with Lakeview rooms. Charlene's stomach tightened slightly. Lakeview usually meant Lake Prize. Zawadi continued, It will help us connect as sisters. Charlene placed the phone down slowly. Sisters, even her own biological sister, had never asked her for Lakeview bonding before. The phone vibrated again. Another message entered. Each person contributes 15,000 shillings. Shall picked the phone up again. She read the message once, then again. Then she opened her banking app. The balance stared back at her peacefully. Charlene imagined the numbers, shrinking one by one like soldiers leaving a battlefield. Meanwhile, the chat continued with excitement. Jerry typed, Girls, this will be unforgettable. Fake sent 10 dancing emojis. Someone wrote, This wedding will trend for months. Shining closed the app carefully. She stood up from the bed, walked to the kitchen, poured herself water, and drank it slowly. Then she whispered to the empty kitchen, This wedding is fighting me. The phone vibrated again. A new message entered. Zawadi had shared the spreadsheet updates. Charlene opened it. Her name appeared in the first column. Beside it were numbers, deposits, contributions, and estimated costs. Charlene's eyes widened slowly. The total looked like a small car's worth of money. She sat at the table quietly. For several minutes, she said nothing. Then the phone vibrated again. Another message appeared in the group. Ladies, please send your confirmation. Zawadi continued typing. We must move quickly. Injury added. Yes, please. Let's be serious. Fate followed. Commitment is important. Charlene stared at the screen in disbelief. Then she picked up the phone. For a minute, her fingers hovered around the keyboard. Then she typed, Ladies. The chat paused. Messages stopped arriving. Someone replied, Yes, Charlene. Charlene looked at the screen for a moment. Then she tapped slowly. This wedding is becoming expensive. There was silence for 5 full minutes. Complete silence for the first time since the group had started. Nobody replied immediately. The typing indicator appeared and then disappeared. Finally, Jerry responded, "It is once in a lifetime." Fate added quickly, "Yes, we must support our girl." Zawadi followed, "Exactly. It is about love." Shining read the messages carefully. Then she typed again. Her message this time was very blunt. "I am saying this because I am broke." The chat froze completely. No emojis came in. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes passed. Charlene placed the phone on the table. She expected arguments or lectures. She expected someone to accuse her of negativity. But instead, something surprising happened. A message appeared from Messi. "Honestly, me too. I am broke." Charlene sat up slowly. Another message appeared, this time from Hale Lima. "I borrowed money last night for the dress deposit." Charlene blinked. Another message followed from Fate. "I have not even told my husband about this cost." Then Linda added, "My rent is due next week." The chat had completely lost its glamour. Now it looked like 10 women sitting together in truth, suddenly aware that the wedding they had been planning was beginning to look like a financial trap. Charlene leaned back in her chair slowly. Finally, the bride herself appeared. Nalia typed, "Ladies, what is happening? I have been caught up in family meetings." Charlene looked at the message twice. That was when she realized that the bride did not even know about all this pressure and stress. It had been created by the bridal squad themselves. Charlene picked up the phone again. This time she typed, "We need to talk." Nalia wrote slowly, "Okay, is everything good?" Charlene did not reply immediately because she knew that words written in group chats sometimes grow legs and start running in different directions. Instead, she typed, "Maybe we should meet in person." There was another pause. Then Zawadi replied, "That might be a good idea." It was the first time Zawadi had sounded unsure since the group began. A meeting was arranged for Saturday afternoon at a cafe in Kilimani. Charlene arrived first. She sat near the window and watched the road outside. Nairobi traffic moved without urgency, like a tired snake. One by one, the bridesmaids arrived. Injury came wearing sunglasses large enough to protect her from sunlight and responsibility. Fate arrived quietly and greeted everyone like a woman who had been avoiding eye contact all week. Her limo walked in laughing, even though her laughter sounded forced. Soon all 10 women were seated around the table. The table itself looked nervous. Finally, the bride arrived. Nalia walked in smiling, but her smile slowed down when she saw the serious faces around the table. "What is happening?" she asked as she sat down. Charlene looked around the table, and the 9 women looked back at her as if she had been elected to speak for the nation. She cleared her throat and began, "Nalia, do you know how much money we are spending on this wedding?" Nalia blinked. "What money?" The table became quiet. Zawadi shifted slightly in her chair. Sheeni took a deep breath and continued, "Your bridesmaids have a spreadsheet." Nalia frowned. "A spreadsheet?" Zawadi pulled out her phone reluctantly and said, "Yes, for organization." Nalia leaned forward. "Let me see." Zawadi turned the phone toward her. Nalia studied the list. Her eyebrows rose slightly higher. Then she leaned back in her chair. "This is a lot." Charlene nodded. "That is what we were trying to say." Now looked around the table again. "You all are paying for these things." Nobody answered immediately. Finally, Messi spoke. "Yes, Hale." Lima added, "But some of us are struggling." Faith cleared her throat. "Some of us already borrowed money for the dress deposit." Naya's expression changed completely. She looked shocked. "Why would you borrow money for my wedding?" No one answered because the answer was obvious. Weddings have a way of pushing people into strange behavior. Zawadi sighed. "We just wanted the wedding to be beautiful." Injury nodded. "And memorable." Na shook her head slowly. "I wanted you all there as my friends, not as sponsors." Half the ladies heaved a sigh of relief. Charlene felt the tension in the room begin to relax. Then she said something that made everyone laugh. "If this wedding continues like this, some of us will need recovery after the wedding." Even Nalia laughed. The laughter felt good. Nalia leaned forward again and said, "Listen, let's simplify this wedding." Those words felt like cool air entering a hot room. Zawadi asked, "What about the Nasha trip?" Nalia shook her head. What Nasha trip? Please cancel it. Fate almost smiled. At the bridal shower venue, Messi asked. Nalia shook her head. Cancel it. Injury raised one eyebrow. The luxury dresses. Nalia laughed. We'll find normal dresses, please. The table became lighter with every decision, and soon the long list of expenses began shrinking like a balloon losing air. Charlene leaned back in her chair. She felt peaceful now. The coffee finally arrived, and everyone drank slowly. Nalia raised her cup and smiled at Charlene. Thank you for speaking honestly. Charlene shrugged. I only spoke because my bank account forced me to. A wedding should celebrate love. It should not create financial casualties. The table erupted with laughter again. Nalia wiped the corner of her eye and looked around the table again. My friends, I didn't know this was happening so fast already. Charlene nodded. That is the strange thing about weddings. What? They all asked. Everybody suddenly begins to perform. The women laughed again. Nalia leaned forward with both hands on the table. Let us start again. Zawadi nodded slowly. Yes, this time with sense. Fate added. Financial plan. The group spent the next hour rewriting the wedding plan. It was a very different meeting from the one that had existed inside the group chats. The Nasha bonding trip disappeared first. Bonding can happen in Nairobi. Charlene said nobody argued. The luxury dresses were replaced with simple ones that the girls could wear again after the wedding. The expensive makeup artist was replaced with someone who charged a reasonable price and did not behave as if she was applying gold dust. The bridal shower venue moved from a rooftop venue to Messi's apartment, which had a large living room and chairs that did not charge for usage. Even Zawadi looked relieved. I think I got carried away, she admitted. Jerry shrugged. I thought everyone had the same budget as me. Charlene smiled. Your budget lives in a better neighborhood than mine. Everyone laughed again. The meeting ended with peace, and the group chat returned to life with a different tone. Now the messages were now practical. What color of flowers? Who is bringing cake? Who is picking the bride from home? Nobody mentioned Lakeview Resort or luxury bonding anymore. Charlene noticed that the conversation was now warmer and form-filled. One evening, she received a private message from Messi. Hey Bessie, I am grateful. Charlene replied. For what? For telling the truth. Charlene stared at the message for a moment before responding. Truth is cheaper than pretending. The wedding day finally arrived, and the ceremony took place in a small garden outside Nairobi. The chairs were simple, and the decorations were beautiful without trying too hard to impress anyone. Charlotte stood with the other bridesmaids near the front. Their dresses were elegant but normal, and their makeup looked like human faces instead of painted statues. When Nalia walked down the aisle, she looked peaceful and happy. When it was time for speeches, the groom spoke first. Then Nalia stood up with the microphone. She looked at her bridesmaids and smiled. I want to thank my friends. The bridesmaids looked at each other proudly. Nalia continued. These women helped me remember something important. She paused and then said, a wedding is about love, and sometimes love needs someone brave enough to speak the truth. The guests clapped. After the ceremony, everyone moved to the reception area, where food waited patiently for serious attention. The bridesmaids gathered around one table. Zawadi raised her glass and said, next time one of us is getting married, we will start with a budget meeting. Everyone nodded. Faith added, a strong budget meeting. Oh, Charlene laughed. Of course. Then she leaned back in her chair and looked around the hall at all the people eating happily. If there was one thing she learned from Nalia's wedding, it was that weddings can bring families together. Weddings can create beautiful memories, but if nobody is careful, they can also empty bank accounts with impressive speed. Hi besties, thank you for watching the story. This story is dedicated to our Kenyan bestie Charlene. I wish you a happy and prosperous birthday, bestie. Have a peaceful year ahead. Please, besties, let's kindly wish her well in the comment section. If you know you enjoy the story, kindly give the story a thumbs up and share the story out with your loved ones. Subscribe to this channel if you've not done so by now. Until I bring another story your way. Bye.